This is Josie Brown with Author Provocateur. Today my guest is novelist Sandy Parks, who is renowned for her adventure thrillers which often have an aviation theme. In Sandy's Hawker Incorporation series, her heroine, Amelia Walkzinski, specializes in the difficult, elusive, and highly profitable repossession of high-end aircraft. At the Barbara Vay Reader Appreciation Weekend 2018, Sandy will be showcasing a new science fiction action thriller, To Die Again. It involves a special FBI unit where most of the agents and support personnel have unique talents that they use to make sure people of their race do not interfere negatively with the human race. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you very much for having me. I think this is going to be fun.
I think so too. I read that you grew up in a family of military pilots. So when did you actually catch the flying bug?
I've had the flying bug my whole life. My dad, when we were very young, he used to take us up in a little light airplane when we lived out in California. Actually, we've lived all over the place, but we were in California for a while. And I think that was the first time I went, hey, this is pretty cool stuff. Look, you can look down on people, and this is cool. So my whole growing up, all I wanted to do was go to the Air Force Academy, but they didn't take women. So unfortunately, I was in college, I think about my last year by the time they accepted their first women. So I wasn't going to start over again.
Right. So you must have learned privately, or you just went through some kind of commercial training program?
Well, originally, I got married right out of college, and my husband's a pilot. So originally, I said, why don't you teach me? And we thought, well, that sounds great. We got in an airplane, and we went up for a couple lessons, and I think by the time we finished that, it was either get divorced or get me a instructor. So I had so we were at Edwards Air Force Base where the test pilots fly. That's what my husband was doing. So it's kind of a dangerous occupation, but I've always been interested in aviation. Even when I was younger as a teen with my dad, I'd go out and watch things going on at the military base, out on the ramp and airplane things. But anyway, so I got this I call him this giant, big, tough Marine, and he taught me how to fly. And I didn't give him any grief at all.
Wow. I mean, it obviously inspires your writing. When did you first see, as, your pilot personality and your author's mind, when did you decide that there was something that went, and you went, yeah, now there's a book?
Well, one thing you have to understand about pilots, and especially about test pilots, because we'd sit and listen to old timers talk about, I remember the day when we tied a rope to our, Chevy, and we were tearing down the Salt Lakes, and we're pulling a lifting body up to fly, or some other kind of thing like that. And you'd hear all these old flying stories, and they were just so fascinating that it kind of makes your mind keep expanding into ideas. And then my husband, he'd be out flying, he'd come home and say, hey, I flew with someone today. He repoed an airplane once.
Oh, wow.
And I said, really? Tell me about this. So it's just the ideas kind of get in your head, and you think, what a great story. I ought to write that. I ought to write something about that. And that's kind of, you know how that goes. They have a little spark, and there comes a book.
And there comes a book. And, your heroine, who I love her name, Amelia Walkzinski. I hope I pronounced that right. But she sounds very spunky, very hardcore to some extent. I mean, so she kind of took on the role that your husband did when he did the repo.
Well, it's funny, but Jet actually reminds me of a couple of people that I know that are young, and they are pilots. And one in particular, gal who ended up, she went through pilot training, but ended up as a navigator, unfortunately. But she flies lighter planes too. But she is the spitting image almost of Jet. But she's read all these books, and she one day wrote me a letter saying, you're so inspirational for women who want to fly. It just makes us seem like it's a piece of cake for us to do. And she goes, I really appreciate that. So, you never know who you're going to inspire by what you do. And there are women that are heroes, that are pilots out there doing a very tough job, whether it's an airline pilot or a military pilot. my niece is an example. She is she was a C-17 pilot in the military. Now she's actually teaching pilot training for the military.
Wow, wow. So,
And she's a great fun girl, except for she's a little short blonde,
ha ha.
not tall like jet and black hair. So
Well, I mean, I think the height thing kind of runs in your family.
yeah, we're short. That's what I say.
Well, what I love is that you kind of took the family, in the gene pool, that passion for flying and just wrote it into your books, which to me is, if you're a farmer and you write things about living on a farm, you know all the ins and outs about it. You're actually informing women who may have a spark or an interest in flying and saying, yes, it is exciting, it's fun. You'll grow a passion for this and you'll have a lot of adventures. And here are some of the adventures that I know of. I mean, you know what they're going through when they're up in the air.
You do, and it's there's something about flying. Now we always laugh because my son is actually my youngest one is getting his pilot's license right now, and he just called the other day, and when they've just come down from flying, he's excited. His voice is, just pitched up, and it's like, mom, I just did a long, cross country. And there's something when you land and you go like, wow, I'm down, my feet are on the ground, I conquered, I survived.
Right.
There's just something about flying that gives you that kind of euphoric feeling, and it never goes away. And it's my other son is an F-16 pilot, and it's an exciting job. It's tense, it's very dangerous, but it's for some of them it's a dream job because it's something very few people do, and it's amazing.
It is
So
amazing. And think of all the training that you have to go through to do it as well. And
it is.
I also love the fact that you're kind of like using what you've written about flying, but the book that you're going to be showcasing at Barbara Vay, To Die Again. I love the fact that it has that AI element to it because I know I've been reading recently about pilots who are not shy about saying, "Hey, I've seen a UFO," or they're now the military. I guess is now coming out with, yeah, these things may exist. Any of the pilots that have seen one? I'm just curious.
Most pilots I know that would have seen interesting things will never say exactly what they've seen. They'll go like, I saw this weird, unusual thing, and that's about what they leave it at because nobody wants to be on the end of like, I saw something I can't explain. But I will tell you that having lived in a test community, there's a lot of strange stuff up there. And I remember my husband and I driving along one day, and we saw um, I don't know, maybe they looked like this was a long, long time ago, probably 20 years ago or so. And we saw something that looked like almost like tracer bullets, kind of light going across the sky. And then
Mm.
it took a right turn and went a different direction.
Oh my God.
And you're just going like, my husband and I looked at each other and he goes, did you see that? And I go, what? I didn't see that.
So,
So it
so
was kind
where
of funny.
where did the idea for To Die Again come from? If it wasn't from that little thing that made a little right turn there.
Well, To Die Again is kind of well, because it's a thriller, but it has a little aspect of people that aren't exactly normal in it. Originally, it was actually there was the second book in that series was actually going to be the first book,
Ah,
and that one starts at the bottom of the sea in a World War II airplane. If it's
ooh, I love it.
it's at the bottom of the ocean. So that's what book two is. And so I love the idea for the setting came about, and then the idea for the book came from that about there being somebody else on this earth besides us, and but they're here because they want to know what it is that humans have that maybe they're lacking. So it's kind of based on that. And that's the storyline for the start of To Die Again starts in a lab with a woman who is kind of keeping an eye on somebody that they think is out to do harm to the world. And the first thing that occurs is an explosion in the lab. And
Wow.
so I had fun. I have a friend who's a microbiologist, and so she goes, "Oh, this is what a lab would be like. I haven't been in a 3 or a 4 lab, but we can work together." And so I took a tour of a lab, and we came up with an idea for the start of that book.
Wow. I think that's
So
great.
I just like to take a little idea and fly with it, so to speak. But I will say that there are airplanes in every book. So later in the book, you may discover there's a scene with an airplane. So I just can't keep away from them, I guess. So
Well, I think it's wonderful that you've got a few series going, in tandem. And as far as your writer's process goes, do you stay with one series for a couple of books before your mind flips over and does another series? How do you take that in stride?
well, right now I'm trying to get back to where I will have 3 books in this kind of science fiction thriller, is what I call it. And then I hope to have more come out, but I'm going back to my first series, which is the Repossessed, or I call it's the Hawker series, but it's about the woman Jet. So I'm going back to Jet series for probably a couple more books, and then I will probably alternate the series between the science fiction and then the Hawker series. And the reason for that is I had actually written the um, what do I call it? The science fiction series for an agent a while ago, many years ago, actually, and then just kind of put it aside. And now that I'm kind of doing some indie publishing, I thought, well, let's dig it out and get it going as a series and then get it out. So that's what I decided to do. So I've kind of, the first 3 books, get that kicked off and going. And then I'm going to go back and do a few with the Hawker series because I'm getting a lot of requests for more books about Jet
Right.
and her team. And she has kind of a crazy con man named Lenny that works for her, and he seems to be kind of a quirky character, and people want to hear more about him. So the next book in that series is actually one where he's the main player in it. So it's going to be kind of a fun book because he's a con man, so he's a little bit different kind of a hero, so to speak. But I have a lot of fun with him.
I love the way you mix up her team.
Well, she's still in the book too, but really it's his books.
So tell me about, is this your second year at Barbara Vay?
This is the second time I've been back, or will be going back, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've met so many incredible readers last year, and they were so generous and giving. And I think the day I arrived, somebody took me out for ice cream, or
Oh.
I guess I should call it custard. To be just appropriately correct. So it was just a lot of fun, and it never stopped. I was exhausted when I came home, but I was so invigorated to get home and write more. And that's kind of a good thing for an author. And I think the readers enjoy hearing from us, and we enjoy hearing from them. So it's a win-win situation all around, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time. So
I love the fact that the proceeds do go to the 99 group. I think that's fabulous. It is a wonderful cause.
part of what we do is we do stuff for scholarships, and that's why, like, I won't be giving books at my table, for free, because I want to sell them. Because everything I make off the books, all the paperbacks, every penny that I make goes straight to a scholarship for the 99s, and
Wow.
it promotes women flying because it's so expensive. And getting out and trying to pay for ratings and stuff is just, it's terrible, and there's just not that many women in the profession. So that's what our groups of 99, basically a lot of, that's what they do. They do other fun stuff, but mostly we give scholarships. And so that's, kind of become my thing. I think there should be more women in certain jobs, and flying is not a male dominated thing. Women can fly very well.
Right. Well, I frankly think it's wonderful that you're doing that. And I hope you do mention that when you get up to, introduce yourself at Barbara Vay on Friday. Mention it. Tell people, come
That's a
up
good
to
point.
my table at lunch and I'll be glad to, to accommodate you because it's such a great cause.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping the signing. I have a little sign I'm going to put up there. And last year, a couple of people, nobody knew me last year because I came in the very last second. But I put a little sign up, and there were people that came by and says, "I don't even read thrillers. I don't read anything with airplanes, but I'll buy this just because you're doing it for that." So
Oh,
that was
that's
kind of nice.
great. That's really cool. Want to hear more about the authors who will be attending the Barbara Vay Reader Appreciation Weekend? Just go to my website, authorprovocateur.com, and click on to the other interviews. You'll also find them on the event's Facebook page. And beneath each interview, feel free to leave a comment about your favorite part of it. Doing so puts you in the running for a bundle of the author's books. Listeners can leave one comment per author to be entered for the drawing. This is Josie Brown of Author Provocateur, signing off.